Hi, hi, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good, good.
Nice
So,
to
well, nice to see you too.
put a face to the name.
Nice to put a, yeah,
How's your day going so far?
my day is chaos, but that's okay. My day is chaos, but that's okay. My schedule took on a life of its own. I'm just trying to make it work.
Oh,
Yeah, so how this is going to work, Cassie, is I'm going to obviously hit the record button, and then I'm going to introduce you and let you share your story. Welcome to Ask When, everyone. Today I have Cassie with me, and how Cassie and I hooked up is we hooked up via another podcast, Hikers podcast, who you might have heard on this podcast. And Cassie is a health and wellness coach. And one of the things that struck me was she talks about emotional eating. And this will tie back to this episode, will tie back to a episode I'm about to release with a huge announcement that has something to do with emotional eating. And yeah, you guys uh, you guys are going to join me on a journey, let's just put it that way. And I never thought that I would be doing this journey, but now the time has come. And but enough of me teasing you guys. I'm gonna let Cassie take it away and explain more about her story.
yeah, thank you. I'm excited to hear your announcement too. I listened to the
Yeah.
latest podcast,
Oh
so
yeah.
I don't think it was released quite yet. So yeah, I noticed my emotional eating in my own life when I was actually getting my master's degree in nutrition, which is an interesting time to notice that you are eating for reasons other than your hunger. And that's really what emotional eating is. It's when you're eating to cope with emotions, and they can be happy, even, Thanksgiving or some celebrations, birthday cake, that could be emotional eating. Um, so I noticed myself doing a lot of coping with stress. I was doing stress eating when I was in school. And it ended up that I gained about 20 pounds over 2 years in nutrition school. And that was really hard on me emotionally, too, because here I was learning how to help people with nutrition. I was on the path to become a registered dietitian. And I felt like everything I was learning, calorie counting, elimination diets, and, cutting stuff out essentially, uh, just made my emotional eating worse. And it wasn't really until I graduated and was working with people, out just living their daily lives, who were trying to lose weight and who were struggling with emotional eating, that I came to figure out what they needed and what I needed um, to to solve the emotional eating problem and lose some of that weight that I gained. And so that's what I do now.
So okay. So hypothetical example. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag now because, and I'll go into more details um, on Tuesday because this is too much. This is too much. And if I had given the hypothetical example, you guys know me too well to say, okay, this is what is happening. I'm actually in the process of selling my house that I'm in now. So that's the announcement. And
Wow.
if I give the hypothetical example of, let's say, a person is selling their house, you guys would guess it. So that's the announcement, and I'll go into more details on Tuesday. So now that I made the announcement, so how do I, because if you look at me, Cassie, I'm skinny. I'm skinny due to my cerebral palsy, and I have lost weight. I lost weight twice, actually. Um, the second time, I didn't even realize I lost weight until someone told me. Actually, the first and the second time, I didn't realize until someone told me. And that's because I was grieving both in 2010 and in 2019. So basically, how do I quit emotional eating when I'm in the midst of a move, literally and figuratively? I mean, it's it's going to be tough. It's not going to be easy, but how do we quit emotional eating? And like today for lunch, I had a salad, and we're recording this on August 27th. So, and I eat pretty healthy. I'm on a plant based diet. I haven't had meat since um, December of 2019, and I don't eat the bag of chips. I don't eat the peanut butter peanut butter peanut butter cups unless I'm really at my weak point, which means I'm really at my weak point. But I try and eat extremely healthy, almost microbiotic cooking. But what do we, how, in the midst of a move, how would you recommend that someone who is now, yeah, you know where I'm going, how do I not eat the content of ice cream? Or
I
how
get
do
this
I not,
question a lot.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I think that the one thing I'm hearing from you that is going to be a big help with this whole process is your awareness that you know yourself, you know your triggers, you know that stress might lead to those peanut butter cups. And yeah, right. And so you know that, and that is really helpful because if you know it, then you can do something about it. And you can say, wow, this has been a really, really stressful day. I really noticed that I'm wanting to go comfort myself with those peanut butter cups. And you can, take steps to support yourself. So I want to give you kudos and say, hey, in the first place, um, seeing that pattern in yourself is really helpful. The second thing I want to say about this specific situation, since it's not hypothetical, is
If I
to,
gave you a hypothetical, if I gave my bandmates a hypothetical situation, it's like, okay,
they would know.
they
Yes,
would
they would
know.
know. So, the second thing I want to say about this situation is that it can be really helpful to have self compassion around emotional eating. And it's important to understand that the reason we emotionally eat is because it works. That actually, when you eat to comfort yourself, your brain gets a hit of dopamine, which is the feel good reward neurotransmitter in the brain. And so you eat, you don't feel good, essentially. You eat, you feel better. And of course, it's a short term feel better, right? Because something like a Reese's cup, maybe one's you're not gonna notice the difference. But if you eat a lot of them or you eat them all the time, you might start to notice lower energy. The sugar can have negative health consequences. So that's what I mean, is that emotional eating, we have to have compassion to notice the reason that we're doing is because it works in the moment. So if you want to address the stress eating that is going to happen, there's really two areas that you need to pay attention to. And one of those is your stress hormones. And that's why you're eating, is the stress hormone cortisol is higher. And research shows that when cortisol is high, they've actually, taken samples of blood and measured the amount of cortisol. And when cortisol is higher, people are more likely to choose unhealthy foods. Okay, so it's actually this hormone that is contributing to these choices. And that's important to know, that there's a biological process happening, because a lot of people I talk to, they feel really bad about themselves when they're emotionally eating. They're like, why can't I just not do this? Why am I still emotionally eating? And they feel like they need more willpower and they need more self-control, when really that's not the answer. Their hormones are imbalanced. And so I think that self-compassion piece is really, really important.
Okay, so you're saying just give it yourself self-compassion, and don't, they say losing a loved one, losing a job, and moving are the most stressful things out there. I luckily have help, and so but they say in general, moving is one of the most stressful things you can do. So yeah, so it's like, give yourself compassion and ask for help. People keep laughing at me all the time because they're like, when you have a disability, you have every right to ask for help. But now I'm like, no, it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah, that's such a great reminder for everyone, right? Like, ask for help, and maybe that'll decrease some of that stress. You don't have as much of that stress hormone.
And
I
then
think that's a great point.
and then you won't be after the bag of you won't be after a bag of marshmallows, or you won't be after a bag of peanut butter cups. Yes, they're my weakness. Everyone knows it. So you won't be after it because your stress hormones will be down enough
Hmm.
so you can concentrate on everything else.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And the reality is, when you're in a really stressful situation, I think we talked about before how a lot of teachers right now are telling me that this is an insane time to be a teacher, and there is so much stress associated with it. And so you don't always have the control to be able to reduce stress. And so in those times, it's important to institute some stress management practices in your life, breathing, taking walks, doing the things that help you personally reduce stress. The other thing you can do to help reduce the stress hormone cortisol, which no one would ever think of, is actually to eat regularly. And this is important for moves, because you get busy, and you might, think, oh, push it to later, it doesn't matter. But actually eating regularly, and I say about every 4 hours, to keep blood sugar balanced, and making sure you have protein every time you eat. Those things can keep those stress hormones down, keep those hunger hormones down, to a point where people have told me, once they've started doing that, and I experienced this myself, that they feel like they now have freedom to make healthy choices. Whereas before, at the end of the day, they were so stressed. Those Reese's cups, maybe it felt like a compulsion. They had to eat it, right? Like, I just have to, I don't have control. But by eating regularly, doing some stress management, maybe that's going to help keep things balanced enough so that people feel like, I could have the Reese's cups, but I also don't necessarily feel like I need them, and having that feeling then allows you to make a choice, and allows you, yeah, to decide what you want to do to care for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Because, um, yeah, because that's gonna be it. So if I typically have, well, my eating schedule is I eat at 8, I eat at 10, I eat at noon, and then that's it. And well, I eat dinner too, but um, 10, 8, 10, noon, and then typically about 4, depending on the situation. But I I think that the eating, just grabbing something, you guys, it doesn't have to be a full-fledged meal. I mean, I
Right.
asked for a banana the other yesterday. I asked for a banana right before I was going into a meeting about this situation. And the reason why I did that is because so my blood sugar would be in check. And now I'm not diabetic by any means, but I asked for that banana, and my stepmom looked at me like I was half nuts because she saw me eating it, and I'm like, okay, this is something I have to do to talk about this situation. I might as well put the banana in my body before we go into this meeting because I needed to keep my blood sugar because blood sugar affects mood. They've called it hangry, and it's like
Yes.
when you get hangry, it's like the end of the world.
Hmm. And that hanger can actually be a sign because when your blood sugar dips too low, that raises cortisol too, that stress hormone. So being
So
hangry is often a sign of extra cortisol, extra stress hormone. So yeah, that banana was a great
yeah,
choice
so
to help keep you
yeah,
balanced.
to help give me balance, and I was perfectly fine throughout the meeting, but I'm like, I just did that so that I could be level headed too. And when you get hangry, it's not like you are coming back that easily. You
Yeah.
could you can scream at people because of your blood sugar being low. And
Hmm.
it's not fair to the rest of people around you if you want to bite someone's head off and just because you're angry. Just
Yes.
because your blood sugar is low doesn't mean the rest of the world has to deal with you and a person, anyone being hangry. I mean, it's like, really? What are we going on there? And so it's like, okay, so every 4 hours to keep your blood sugar up, and then you can at least think, and it doesn't have to be a sit down meal. It could just be a piece of string cheese flying out loud. It
Yeah,
doesn't
exactly.
have to be a salad. It can just be a piece of something to keep
Hmm.
blood sugar up. And so without um for anonymity purposes, without stating the client's name, who is your success story?
Yeah, well, I mentioned that one of the gals I was talking to a few weeks ago, what comes up to mind for me when you say that is she was just starting the program, and she was eating the way that I instruct to eat, and eating every 4 hours is part of it, and really thinking about the combination of foods you're getting and focusing on health. So she's like, okay, today I started eating the way that you told me to eat. And she said, and all my cravings went away. She was shocked. Of course, I'm thinking, well, I told you so, right? Like, I knew this was going to happen. But she was surprised because she said, I was paying attention to see because her time that she typically emotionally ate was in the evenings after dinner. And that's when a lot of people tend to emotionally eat. The day wraps up and our stress catches up to us and we need a way to cope with it or a way to numb it or to get out of it. And so she was saying normally she feels a strong craving to go get, ice cream or chocolate or something sweet. And she said she didn't feel like she needed to do that, that her brain knew that those things were still there. Her brain knew that that was her habit, but that, like I said earlier, that compulsive draw to I'm looking at my refrigerator, that compulsive draw to the freezer drawer was gone for her. And she said, wow, this actually works. She said, I really have the freedom to make healthy choices. And I think that I love that. And that's just been sticking with me. And I've been thinking about that because I think those of us who struggle with emotional eating, and like I said, I've been there. It's part of my story as well. When you're in it and you've tried all the popular things that you're told to do, like maybe your doctor says, just stop doing it. Not helpful, right? Or, the conventional wisdom is to, okay, well, count your calories and pay attention to what you're eating and write it all down. Right. When none of that works for you because it doesn't address the stress hormone, it doesn't address the emotional piece, like it doesn't address your mindset, it does absolutely nothing to address the actual problems that are going on. You feel like a failure and you feel like you have no willpower and you have no self-control. And for me, I was in school to become a dietitian. I felt like a fraud, right? Like, how am I supposed to help other people? I can't even help myself. And so I think that feels like slavery. You're stuck there. There's nothing you can do. That's what it feels like. And so many people tell me they feel hopeless. And so the message that I'm trying to get out is there is hope. There is freedom. You don't have to be stuck in this emotional eating. There are ways that you can support yourself through that. And that's what I'm really excited about, because when people tell me that they feel like they have freedom to make healthy choices, it's like, wow, your whole life is getting ready to change and I can see it. And it's so exciting.
Yeah. And forget the whole foods. For eat healthy, but also know your own body. Know what your weaknesses are. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, the bag of chips. Yes, I'll go after the bag of chips too, but I would go after the peanut butter cups more likely over the bag of chips. But I just have to be mindful and give myself space and grace. And that's what I've been
Yes.
trying to do, and I um, have been trying to, and I've been trying to give myself space and grace since making my decision. And now that the cat's out of the bag and everyone knows that it's not going to be the easiest thing, but as long as I can keep my own body in check, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Yeah. That there are seasons of stress and you're seeing an oncoming season of stress.
Yeah.
And so you see it coming, you can prepare for it and you can, yeah, I love that space and grace. And I would say that self-compassion, really, when you're armed with those tools, because the thing is if you're mean to yourself, and this is a lot of the mental self-talk that my clients do, is they tend to be like pretty mean to themselves in their minds, with their thought process. And if you're mean to yourself about how you want to compulsively have whatever food, right? You're just going to feel worse. It's going
Yeah.
to drive, more of that cortisol and make the problem worse. And so if you can
Right.
offer that self-compassion, everything's just so much easier and so much better. But here's the thing, right? It's a lot easier said than done, like anything in life.
Yeah. It's the easier said than done. So, what is your favorite book?
My favorite book. Oh man. Um, So I have like right now I'm reading Brene Brown's Rising Strong, and I really like anything she's written, and it speaks to my heart. And I think, yeah, it's for me and it's for my clients. And so from like a professional perspective, I would say Brene Brown, but from a little kid in me perspective, it's the Harry Potter series. I grew up with
Okay.
that. And my mom would special order on Amazon so that once I was into book one, then when book two was released, it was mailed directly to my house, and I got my little hands on that. So yeah, that would be
I,
my answer.
I'm a big Harry Potter fan myself, so it
Oh, it is just so fun. And have you reread it recently? Because maybe that
no,
could be
I
a fun
haven't.
stress reliever for
I
you.
no, I haven't picked up a Harry Potter book since '90s, you guys. I will, as soon as this whole stress is over, I'm gonna pick up more books. Then you guys
Yes,
know what to do with pick them up on audiobooks because I'm like, give me an audiobook, make me happy as clam. Give me a podcast, make me happy as a clam. Give me music, make me happy as clam. And
me
so,
too.
yeah, just give me something. And with the podcasting and with the audiobooks, you can actually be doing something else while you are listening to whatever. Just as, and that can help you with de-stress to put you in a totally different frame of mind.
I agree. And I love all of those things myself.
And so if your best friend had to write a book about you, what would the title be?
So I think it would be laughter and grit. And that's because I really like to laugh. And I like to laugh a lot. And I also really strive. I'm naturally drawn, call it my personality or whatever, to doing hard things. At this point, starting a business is hard. Deciding to overcome emotional eating, that was hard.
Well,
And yet all so worthwhile. And so I think those hard things develop grit. And so that's why I
laugh.
think if my friend wrote a book, it would be laughter and grit.
Well, that and it's so funny because people keep asking me, "Oh, do you want to do this?" And I said, "I'm the type that if I get on a mission like school, or if I get, I'm going back to journalism school, by the way, in the
Neat.
middle of all this chaos. Oh, by the way, went into becoming a journalist, and I said, look,
So cool.
if I get on a mission, I see that mission through to the end. So, yeah,
So your book could be gritty too. Well, I know you've already written books, but
I have already written books, but they need to be updated now because, um, yeah, but it's like when I, it's like a dog with a bone syndrome. When I get on a mission to um to see something through, I see something through, and so it's like no, it doesn't help, and um it doesn't it doesn't help, and so it just doesn't help when I give up a mission, it doesn't help. And sorry about that. My Facebook was
no
going
worries.
off, and sorry about that, you guys. You caught me in a moment of Facebook behind a Zoom. So yeah, you caught me in the life. Yeah, but my point being was that you've got to set up for success, whether you're gonna lose 30 pounds and quit the emotional eating.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. And see it through to the end.
And so I know you have questions for me. I know that. And so, what are those questions?
Well, one of my questions, and maybe you've already answered it, maybe I know the answer, is it's a fun question, is what is your favorite comfort food? How about besides the Reese's cups?
Besides the Reese's peanut butter cups or any peanut butter cup, quite frankly, I would say, uh, I would say mac and cheese, or I would say pizza. Give me a ball of mac and cheese and make me that makes me the happiest kid on the planet. Although I do like my broccoli, I do like my salads, but give me a ball of mac and cheese, and that just makes me the happiest kid on the planet. And I'm like, why isn't mac and cheese that makes me the happiest person on the planet? Why?
That's amazing. And I don't think you're alone. I think a lot of people like mac and
Yeah,
cheese because it's delicious.
it's delicious. Like,
Another question I had for you, if can I ask it?
yeah,
Yeah, my other question is, and this is kind of maybe like a selfish question. I'm not sure. You'll tell me. But as a business owner, I run online groups for emotional eating and weight loss, and I was wondering if you had any specific ideas or strategies that I could use to make my programs more accessible for clients who might be differently abled.
well, number one, and I did think about this question, you guys,
I
because
appreciate that.
I get my assistant to send me these questions beforehand. So I did think about Casey's question here, and my advice would be to look at your website and see if there's a way that, because most websites, when it comes to accessibility and people that use screen readers, um, most websites are non handicapped accessible. And so, um, people that use screen readers, typically, if they're blind, they can't read their the website to save their lives. So that would be number one. Is
I love
talk
that.
to, and I have a friend who is legally blind who does this stuff day in day out, and I can hook you guys up with him. I can hook any of you guys up with him. And he's actually been on my podcast several times. Now he was my co host at one point. And so several times later. And he kept saying to me that we've got a problem because these screen readers that the blind use can't tell the difference between a website and a book. And so when it comes down to it, if you want more clients who are disabled, and if you want more clients in your program to help more people, you need to make sure that a screen reader can actually read your website. Another thing is that you have to make sure that you are um, in these Zoom chats. You have to make sure that you have to look at the disabled person straight in the eye to get what they're saying, because they'll um they'll come on to a Zoom and be so overwhelmed that you're going to have to either put them in a one-on-one with you or look them straight in the eye and give them a chance to speak.
That's really helpful to know. Yeah, thank you.
Be-
That tip for Zoom, and then the website piece is so helpful because, you know, really I was thinking so specific, like my materials I give clients, but you're right. The website is essentially your business card to the world.
Yeah,
And so you
and
have to
then
make sure that that
put your
that's
materials in, let's say, put your materials in audio, put your materials in braille, put your materials um, where people who are deaf that they can read, that the people that are blind could either read it in braille or read it by a screen reader, and put the materials and audio too, so that um, people could have access to it in in the modality that they choose
works best
to
for
read.
them. Yeah.
And
Those are great things, and I'll take note. And you know, as I continue to grow and iterate, you know,
yeah,
making sure
you're
that future versions
welcome
have that.
to reach out to me anytime you
Well,
want
thank
to ask
you.
me these. I mean, anyone can, and to ask me these questions, because this is what I do on a daily basis. I'm a teacher of disabilities there. And so, yeah, but that's, and for the people that are deaf, I would say have it so that when a person comes on who's deaf, and when a person reaches your website, have a thing where that where a aide can fill out the information for them, because they won't be able to understand what's going on. I mean, I have a friend who actually has a deaf family member, and she's the um the family member doesn't do online. The family member doesn't do online. And so I'm thinking, and I actually did a full-fledged research paper on deaf and the aging and deaf population. And what I want to see is communications with the disabled more and more integrated in the community. But it's like you have got to cater it to where people are at.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate this. Thank you
all,
for sharing this with me.
we all hop online and think, oh, we're just gonna Google X, Y, and Z. We're just gonna Google how to cook broccoli, for example. Well, when a deaf, because we're in this program via Casey, and Casey's probably going to give us a recipe on how to make ourselves better. Well, when you think about it, a deaf or blind person can't Google and can't understand. So you have got to meet people where they're at.
That's a great point. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate this. I
No,
appreciate you sharing this with
no.
me.
And I appreciate you asking me the question, how can we help the the less able bodied community? I'm not calling disabilities here, but how can we help the less able bodied community? And it's a just throwing it out there, but I think you need to have a class for not only disabled but their caregivers alike, because at
It's a great
the end
point.
of the day, um, it takes a village to raise
Mhm.
pe- to raise people with physical disabilities. And at the end of the day, when the caregiver goes to bed, it's like, did I give myself space and grace to be fighting this, um, fighting my own urges of emotional eating to um, to do what I need to do, whether it's help a family. And I don't think there's enough resources out there for not only disabled people, but for caregivers alike. I don't
Mhm.
think there's enough resources for caregivers and the disabled.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. And I know that I do have a number of caregivers in my free Facebook community as well. And is it okay if I share about
Go
that in case
ahead.
anyone,
Oh, go
yeah, in
ahead.
case anyone wants to join and get some support? This is a group for primarily women in their 40s through 60s. And you can go to Facebook and type in emotional eating and women's wellness community and join from there and get a lot of support around emotional eating. Like I said, it's free, it's a private group. And then if anyone wants some tips to help with stress eating, they can go to cassiechristopher.net/free and get some tips, just some ideas. A lot of the stuff
Yeah.
we talked about today, if you're going through something
Um,
stressful.
yeah. And yeah. And so, and Cassie, you're gonna be in my phone book if you don't watch out, because I
I'm
might,
here for you.
I might need, now that I let the cat out of the bag, I might need my fan base to to keep me going, keep me sane. Because at one point, well, before today, before I had to let the cat out of the bag, I was telling my best friend, who happens to be my assistant. I said, well, she knows what's going on. And
Hmm.
um, I said, do we stop the podcast or do we keep it going? She goes, keep it going for your fan base, but your fan base is going to support you no matter what. So if I lose my mind, you guys, which I'll try not to do on the podcast, but if you see me in odd places recording podcasts, you know why. If you'll see if you'll see me in strange places recording podcasts by a phone, you know why. You know why, you guys, because I am, even though I'm super excited about it, it's gonna be a little bit interesting movie
Hmm.
with a disability, and so it's gonna be interesting. But that's that's okay, as long as I keep my mind where it is, as long as I don't get hangry. That's that's gonna be the good thing. So, Cassie, where can people find you, and where can people get a hold of you if they want a private coaching session?
Yeah, I mean, I think the best thing would be to join that Facebook group, Emotional Eating and Women's Wellness Community. I do have a website, cassiechristopher.net. I have not tested it to see if it works with screen readers. So just so everyone knows. But really joining that Facebook group and sending me a private message, I'm in there every day talking to people, is the best way to get more information, see what I'm about, and connect with me.
Yeah, um and let's see, these I was gonna say the Instapot is going to be your best friend too. If you just wanna nicely cook something up, the Instapot.
I
For
do
those
like my
of
Instapot.
you that don't know what an Instapot is, Google it. Google it, or I may be an spot expert on one of these days because I um I have I have access to one, and so yeah, that's going to help, and we're just going to make this work, you guys. And as I said, not only give me space and grace right now, but give yourself space and grace. And don't be, oh, I ate a bag of cookies. I feel so bad about myself. It's okay. It's okay
Mhm.
to indulge. Just don't do it every day. just just don't do it every day. And then it's okay to eat the bag of all your cookies. Eat the bag of have a one or two, but just don't do it every day. Just try to be as healthy as you can. But as I said, it's okay. It's okay not to feel guilty about it. And and people are going to start laughing at me because they're like, when you have a disability, you're skinny, you have no weight problem. Yes, I do. I am. If I get too skinny, I look it. So I'm like, hello. It's okay to eat the junk food, but just don't do it every day, and then it will be perfectly fine. But I think with COVID and lockdown, I think that people are leaning towards the junk food more and more, and they're feeling guilty about it. But and my last words of advice is don't feel guilty about it. You can get back on track. And I thank you guys for listening. And hopefully, you've learned some stuff. And hopefully, we can support each other. And I hope you guys enjoyed a fabulous episode of Ask Win. Thanks, you guys. Bye, you guys.